We cover the latest topics and trends making waves across the sport and chat with our industry's most prominent leaders, so your golf business stays one step ahead. Welcome to Golf Business Live, powered by Club Caddy. Here's NGCOA CEO Jay Karen and owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club and Vice President of the PGA of America, Don Rea.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 2023 episode of Golf Business Live, powered by our friends at Club Caddy. The neon sign is still burning bright. Guys, thank you for your continuing sponsorship of the show, where we discuss happenings on the trade side of the golf business. I'm Jay Karen, CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association, and the ham to my egg, Don Rea, owner of Augusta Ranch and Vice President of the PGA of America. How are you today, Don Rea?
I'm doing good. I'm growing the game. I'm playing golf today, Jay. That's what golfers do. That's what PGA golf professionals do. That's the best part of our industry. I'm in a private club right now. I could never afford to be a member of this club, but I'm playing it with a member, and that's why golf's the greatest.
Fantastic. You know, today, in a little bit, we're going to bring on the show a friend of mine, Mr. Greg Nathan, who is the current president and chief operating officer of the National Golf Foundation, recently announced as the new CEO come 2024. So very excited to bring Greg on the show here in a few minutes. So as we always do, Don, talk to me about your travels. Where have you been, my man? You're not just the owner of Augusta Ranch, you're vice president of the PGA of America, and you are the most traveled man in the world these days. So talk to me. What you seeing out there? We had the annual meeting. We were just together in Montreal. Talk to me. What are you seeing on the road out there?
Well, there's really not much going on right now with the PGA of America. I mean, it's a lull time. I mean, you know, I've got John Rahm. I've got rollback. What else? Do you want to do anything else? But you know what? That's why I love going to see the sections. Obviously, there's 41 sections of the PGA of America. I was in Boston for the New England section. And the mentorship summit was awesome. Sold out, 70 PGA golf professionals. Now, they had it at the Country Club at Brookline, so thank you, Brendan Wells, for doing that. But it was a great location. And then saw you in Montreal and got to talk to the Canadian golf course owners, give them a little insight on dynamic pricing. And, you know, they're very smart up there. They tend to wait for us to try stuff out. And if it works, they copy it, sometimes better than we do. But it was so cool, right? Love to go up there. And then I was in Northern California, you know, and got to go to their awards presentation, you know, talk to the members. It turned into a little bit of a presser just because of all the USGA and the rollback. That was like one day before the rollback information was going to come out from the USGA. But yeah, and you know what? And one thing, everybody says I'm traveling all over the place. Just so you know, John Linder and Nathan Carnes, they're traveling too. I've just decided to be intentional on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and tell everybody where I'm going. And that's had a tremendous response. We're like, wow, Don, you're really out there. But I'm just doing what every president, what every vice president's done for a long time. And that's good advice for golf course owners, right? What?
Harry, can you bring up the picture of us eating some smoked meat at Schwartz's Deli in Montreal?
So good.
Does every vice president of the PGA of America do this? I mean, you say, I'm just doing what every vice president does. You know, eat some smoked meat at Schwartz's in Montreal. What a time we had with the Canadians at the NGCOA Canada conference. And hey, bring my favorite picture up, the food pic. This is food porn right here. Harry, show that one. Okay.
Can you say that word? Can you say food porn?
Sure you can. Why not?
I don't know. Sounds a little weird.
Are we being regulated by anyone?
No, but that's a weird word. I don't even know what that is. I was hungry and now I'm not hungry anymore.
You'll be hungry when you see this. Yeah, we had a great time up there for sure. Those Canadians know how to party and they know how to put on a good conference. It was great. We had an American Dream Team panel closing there with Kathy Harbin, you, me, Fred Palmer from Club Car. We had John Last and was that it? Yeah, we had a good. Oh, there we go. Poutine, baby. French fries covered with cheese and meat and gravy. Oh my gosh, that is food porn right there. I don't know if you're hungry or sick when you look at that.
A lot of calories in that, dude. There's a lot of carbs. Everything that's not on my diet is on that thing. Gravy, French fries, they are delicious. So I'll tell you what, man, it's the best up there.
You know, people in the cold weather areas of the world know how to eat. That's all I'm going to say.
Me too.
So, you know, last time we ran this show, it was live on stage, but our typical audience didn't get to see it. We were in Las Vegas at the Golf Business Tech Con, where we had Mr. Gideon Yu as one of our keynotes there. You know, former CFO of Facebook and YouTube and so forth. What a great Q&A that was. He's a board member of the PGA of America. That was awesome. So it was really great. I mean, what a dynamic conference that was, the TechCon. We followed that up the next day by the Water Summit. We discussed, you know, consequential issues with federal, state, and local water officials, the golf industry, learning, sharing. Really good couple of days in Las Vegas. So that was great. And I got to come to the annual meeting, saw you guys down in Frisco, the amazing headquarters and the facility, the campus that you have out there. Yeah, there's the Water Summit. Yeah, it was quite a consequential meeting. Lots of, you know, this is if there is an existential crisis for, you know, anybody in the industry, this is number one. I think I've got a couple of others on my mind that might be a little bit more that are also existential to some on the golf industry, but water is certainly the lifeblood of a golf course for sure. So it was really important. And you're a big part of this. I mean, being in Arizona, you kind of push for these kinds of things to happen.
Well, but you've taken the ball and run with it, right? I mean, I'm glad the PGA is part of that. Obviously, as the vice president of the PGA, I want to be there to show the support of the PGA of America, because it does impact about 7,000 of our members that water down in the Colorado River Basin. But you know, the TechCon, I've never seen any organization do what you do, bro. I mean, we had all these nerds in the room, right? I mean, and Gideon's like the head nerd. He'll call you, he's a member of the Tri Lambda Lambda, dude. I mean, he's a Revenge of the Nerds kind of guy. And then the next day you got all the agronomists, right? These scientists in the room, and you did that back to back. And once again, I think that's great when the PGA kind of aligns with you and you can be nimble and you can get those things done. But absolutely, water's a scary deal out here. You know, we don't want any more. We want good quality, and we want to be good stewards of it. And sometimes the perception is that we're water guzzlers, but we're not. We're extreme and awesome water managers.
Amen. Hey, listen, if anybody's tuning in live on YouTube or Facebook or X or LinkedIn, feel free to post your comments there in the comment field. We'll see it, and we'll take the good ones and we'll surface them. We see Club Grub is there commenting that the FCC approves it all. The FCC is watching us, so we got to be careful on what we say. But I don't think porn is a bad word. All right, so a few house items before we bring our guest on. Two important reports are out now in the space for NGCOA members, and non-members can access them too, but we encourage you to join the association to get them for free. We've got the 2024 Compensation and Benefits Study, where we measured a couple dozen positions at the golf course, along with our friends at the NGF. They helped us with this report. First time, I think the two of us really collaborated on a research project just bilaterally together, and it's a really great product. And we encourage no golf course to budget without having read the compensation and benefits report. Really a lot of insight in there on multiple positions. It'll be interesting one day maybe to compare the results in our comp report versus the other associations, you know, just to see if there is a margin of difference in the same positions and so forth. You never know. We should maybe ask Greg about that if he's got any insights into that, but we should do that. We also just released the 2024 Pulse report, our second edition of this. We plan this to be an annual report where we are taking the pulse of golf course owners and operators. What's on your mind? What are you seeing? What are you planning to do in 2024 and beyond? Really interesting insights here that we use then to educate the industry on, to educate our members on when we find out what these insights are, what their fears are, what their challenges. Like, for example, AI, which I'm going to have a grab bag of questions for Greg and you and me at the end. Like AI, you ask them, well, what do they think is going to impact the golf industry? This percentage think it's, you know, like, are concerned or optimistic. This percentage is like, you know, and so it's like, wow, okay, we definitely need to educate around this, as we saw from the TechCon. So that's out. We're soon going to be publishing our merchant processing white paper to educate owners and operators on the latest and greatest issues in the merchant processing part of our business. What does it mean to read a merchant processing statement in 2024? You know, what do you need to look for? What's happening in the ecosystem? The surcharging topic. How do you do it properly without breaking the law? Are you surcharging on debit cards and not knowing it? And, you know, you're breaking federal law if you do that. But does your technology identify when it's a debit versus credit? All of these. It is still the Wild West out there. And I know you've had your hands in that issue for years, everything from helping us detect and respond to fraud to just trying to get these systems down. What's your take on the future of merchant processing to our business.
I think we should copy Canada. How you talk to Jeff Calderwood and what they've done with credit card rates up there, and I don't know how they did it, but they're under 2%. I think they said like 1.6 or 1.7. I've never heard of the effective credit card rate at a facility to be under 2%. But yeah, I think you're going to have to do some of it. And to your point, I see a lot of golf courses that are just throwing the surcharge on, and I'm not quite sure those systems are following if it's a debit card or not. So you got to watch out for it. But it's just one of those things. You've got to continually check your bills, don't you? I mean, it's like when you have a new janitorial crew, right? For the first month, man, your bathrooms are the cleanest thing that you've ever seen. And then after a year, they start slacking a little bit, and you got to kind of kick them in the butt. Credit cards could be the same way. All of a sudden, they signed you up, and your effective rate was 2.2%, say, and now all of a sudden you climb to 2.4%. And hey, what's 0.2%? I don't know. I'd like 0.2% of $5 million. Pretty sure I go to Hawaii on that. And so you got to look at those things.
Yeah, and we are. And that's what this is about. It's about teaching owners how to look at these things. I mean, very important stuff here, because if you are charging a surcharge more than you're allowed to by the card holders or the card companies, you are breaking their rules as well. You know, Visa's putting caps on this. It's just, we really need to stay on top of this, and NGCOA is here to help educate. So thank you, Harvey Silverman, our good friend who helped do the research and write this. A couple more notes. We just found out yesterday that there's a case in New York that you may know about, a 9-hole golf course that was sued by a patron for an errant golf ball situation that hit his eye. You know, so he sued the golf course, claiming it's their fault, and it's in the court system now. NGCOA was asked to intervene, and we helped get an amicus brief submitted to the court. We just found out yesterday that the appellate court accepted the brief, which is great, which means it becomes officially part of the court record and the arguments to defend the golf course. So we should find out in early January. I think that's when the court goes to, when court happens here, I guess. And we'll find out. We'll report back to the industry how effective this is. We helped with the Indian Pond case in Massachusetts this last year or earlier this year, and now we've got this happening coming up in New York. And you know, more of these fires, these state and local fires, are creeping up everywhere. And you're going to see more from NGCOA coming up in 2024. We're going to be launching a new advocacy program to beef up our ability to be the firefighter, come in and help on these state and local issues. As an industry, we've kind of galvanized on federal issues, and that's when we go to National Golf Day and all of that. But we've got a lot more fires creeping up at the local level, and we have to be there for that. So stay tuned. We're going to be calling it the NGCOA Champion Circle. So be prepared to see the invitation to get involved to support more of these efforts, so we can be there when these things happen. And the last thing I'll mention is we got a big week coming up next month with the PGA show in Orlando with the Golf Business Conference. So we've got 3 days planned. Early that week, I think January 21st, 22nd, 23rd time period, we invite all owners and operators of golf courses to come to the show, to the Golf Business Conference and the PGA show. It is one robust week. So I'm sure you're looking forward to being in Orlando next month.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, anybody who's listening, Paul's coming back. What's Paul's last name? The AI guy used to be a PGA golf professional.
Like Ritzler. I can't remember. I can't remember.
That guy, he is no joke, man. I'm telling you, you got to go to the show this year just to see. Now, you always line up great speakers. We've got some good ones on the PGA side too. Obviously, that's just a great week in Orlando of networking. But the education, you know, I love what you guys put out. And Paul, yeah, you want to hear what's going on with AI and how it's affecting things.
He's coming back.
And you know what? And even if you were at TechCon, dude, that's like 3 months later. This stuff is ramping up so fast. I'm sure his presentation is going to be different than it was 3 months ago because it's ever changing. So, yeah, the show's going to be great. Got to go.
Roadster, Paul Roadster.
Roadster.
Let's get to a question real quick here. We got Joshua saying, would love to hear how anyone finding ways to monetize payments through T-Sheet software. Come to the Golf Business Conference. That, you know, we're not going to answer it certainly today, but that's where you need to be. You need to be in the NGCOA community at the Golf Business Conference. Owners and operators are some of the most generous people I know in sharing their tricks to the trade and how they are successful in operating their business. So come to the Golf Business Conference. Yes, Don.
But I will give a quick, I mean, you know, out here in Arizona, water's a big deal. So a lot of golf courses are putting water conservation fees on there, small 1% on there, not charging for the credit card fees, just an additional fee. It's working.
Wow.
It's working.
Oh, well, it feels like a lot of what restaurants have been doing as far as their employee healthcare fund. Let's add 5% to the receipt to fund that. The question is obviously, are these things getting earmarked specifically for those things? Who's doing the accounting and the auditing of that anyway? Randy Anderson says he's looking forward to seeing us in Orlando. Randy, it's good to see you, man. He's in snow-covered Maine, but Randy is a good dude. He, for 4 or 5 years ago, started teaching at our conference and others about simulators. We're going to get to this with Greg Nathan, some of this golf entertainment, screen golf, all of this stuff. Up in Maine, they installed, I think, a couple of simulators at his course in the middle of nowhere, Maine, and they're playing golf in the wintertime. He's bringing cash flow in. Not only are they playing golf, I remember they have hunting and shooting on the screen, so you can come to his golf course, get a few beers, so love having Randall in the organization. And obviously, Elaine Gephardt loves having him on the New England Golf Course Owners Association Board of Directors. Fantastic. Lots of interesting stuff. We're going to save some of the recent news for maybe the end of the show, a little bit of a grab bag. And let me preface this a little bit. Sometimes the views of us on the show are the views of us individually. They may not represent the views of our organization. They may or may not. We should probably qualify that when we talk about because these are fresh, hot, changing issues, right? And like NGCOA has not developed a position statement on the equipment changes and so forth. I can certainly see how some owners and operators feel about it, but right now we don't. So whatever I say is Jay Karen, maybe not NGCOA. So let's be clear on some of that. So without further ado, why don't we bring on the final guest of 2023, rock star in his own right. What was?
Well, I scooted the chair back. I was scooting the chair back.
Greg Nathan, the COO and president of the National Golf Foundation. Greg, how are you?
Great to see you guys. Nice to see you wearing something other than a blue blazer.
Yeah, you're talking about me or him?
Well, you're over the top. Wonderful. Ho holes.
Hey man, it's good to see you. And I'm sure our audience is very familiar with the National Golf Foundation, but we do get a lot of new folks coming in the industry who do watch the show. The NGF, you guys have been around since 1936, founded by these brothers, Herb and Joe Graffis, I believe, right? And basically it's been around nearly 100 years, but primarily your number one, what you're known best for is research and insights, right? I mean, that's what you guys put out into the space. You've been part of this organization for how many years now?
Almost 17.
Wow, 17. All right, talk to us. How did you get there? What were you doing? Take us from graduating college to the future, starting in 2024, CEO of the NGF. Talk to us. What's the journey here?
How about that? All right. So after attending 100 Grateful Dead shows, let's start with that. No, we'll start with that. That is true, by the way. Lehigh University, graduated in 1991.
Lehigh Iacocca.
And my mother looked at me in October 1991 after I had attended 15 shows in about 19 days. And she looked at me and she said, do you think it's time to get a job? And I said, okay, let's go. And my dad was a multi-award-winning copywriter on Madison Avenue. I did major in marketing. I do have some of that education. And I said, all right, I'm going to go what an industry I love, the advertising industry. I worked on Madison Avenue for 9 years in account management. But by the time when I was 22, 23 years old, I knew I wanted to work in golf. I was 100% sure. I think that's one of the luckiest things that any young person could know. Mm-hmm. And then you try and figure out, all right, how's this going to happen? And so I was lucky enough to come across a few great guys, one of whom said, if you go to the PGA show, I'll give you a badge. You'll get to walk in the show and then you'll give me the badge back. And I did something that would be way outside my comfort zone when I was 23 or 24 is I'm going to go and I am going to physically, humanly cold call presidents and marketing directors from golf companies. And I did that for many years while I was working in the ad agency business. I would get my nicest suit, stack of resumes, and I'd go to the PGA show. And over a course of time, if you do it right, you meet a lot of people. And that's sort of how I got started down the road. And eventually I got a job at Golf Magazine in New York, where I'm from. I worked there from 2000 to 2007 in marketing, developed a lot of relationships in the industry. And then in late 2006, the guy who I worked with at the NGF, a very small part of my job at Golf Magazine was, when the publisher or anyone, any of the executives needed info on the state of the golf business, well, what they really wanted was good news about the golf business, because they're trying to sell ads. So I used to have this guy, Andy Allen, and Andy Allen said, I'm leaving the NGF. I'm going to go back where I'm from, Winston-Salem. And at that point, I said, I've been reading the stuff that Joe Betitz writes and publishes. And I knew he's one of the most respected people in golf. And I said, all right, I'm grown up enough now that I could call Joe Betitz and meet Joe Betitz in person. And so we went to breakfast at the Rosen, and we had a great breakfast. And as only Joe Betitz can do, at the end of that breakfast, he says, I'm looking for somebody. And I've got a headhunter, and I've been looking for somebody for quite a while. I have a couple of finalists. But if you want to be, he said, I could take on another dark horse candidate. So if you know anybody who might be interested, let me know. And so there's more to it than that, but that's enough for Golf Business Live.
Fantastic. Well, you are a classic industry veteran who got their start at the PGA show. So, Don and I met at the PGA show back in 2016. I didn't know Don back my first in an NGCOA, but we met at tell Greg about our meeting at the PGA show in 2016.
Well, I wanted to talk about golf now and some things. I go, Jay, you just got the job. I'd love to meet with you. And he goes, Don, I'm so busy. I got nothing. I'm like, just give me 10 minutes. He goes, okay, I'm walking between meetings. I'll give you a 15-minute. I'm walking to the next meeting. That's what he did to me. You hear that? That's what he gave me. Give me a 15-minute walking meeting.
The future vice president of PGA of America. Yeah, between booth 2108 and 408, that's when we can meet. It's a busy time. It's a great event, and you're proof in the pudding here, right? That relationships in this industry yield a lot, for all of us. So no, that's great. And congratulations on the appointment, to be head of such an important organization in this industry. We look forward to working with you, sure, on a lot of interesting initiatives going on in the industry. So we look forward to partnering with you on some of those. So let's do a look back real quick on 2023 then, as far as what NGF has kind of put out, what have you. What are some of the more eye-opening insights that you guys have seen this past year in the golf space?
Well, you guys saw me speak at the PGA annual meeting, and I gave 3 state of industry presentations in a 2-week period. And as you would expect when you give those speeches, you have certain things that you might repeat, a time or two. Yeah. But there's something that I said that you guys might remember, which is I said, the news is so positive. I even wore a cardigan so I could channel my inner Mr. Rogers, who was always so well known for being positive. I was like, there is so much positive news. It's almost uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the golf industry is cyclical. The NGF is quite unique in that we're the only organization that serves every vertical of the business. And so not all parts of the business do well at the same time. And the golf course business in particular, right now in this cycle, is really the highest performing, I think, of all the categories. And what I was alluding to that I repeated multiple times is I could do the state of industry in about 10 seconds. Green grass golfers up, off-course golfers up, investment in golf courses being up, revenues being up, closures down, openings slightly up, and then just go like that. But that wouldn't be any fun. But that's the truth. That's a lineup of some of golf's key metrics that NGF keeps meticulous track of and studies. But we have the good fortune one of the really unique things about the NGF is, of course, we study the golf economy. And just like any economy, the supply and demand sides of the golf economy we are studying. And we've done it for so long, and we can really see where some eye-opening trends might appear. But the other half is that we spend a lot of time working with executive teams of the golf companies that operate within these sectors. So it's not just like empirically studying like an academic.
Mm-hmm.
We also talk to leaders of businesses every single day in different sectors and understand how their businesses are going. So one of the things that's fun for this particular audience is measuring the financial health of golf courses.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done it 5 times since 2006. And that's one of the really most wonderful things that we see relative to the financial health of golf courses. A very simple question from 0 to 10. How would you rate your facility's financial health? And just the trend line, for once, my audience is not going to see all kinds of data right now. We just get to talk. But the trend line is really pretty amazing in terms of those who say they're in poor financial health, that showing a drop, and those who say they're in excellent financial health, who give an answer between 8, 9, or 10.
Let me ask you a question about that, Greg, because I saw a slide on one of your presentations that showed the golfer per golf course kind of ratio. And it's like, looks like it's back, I guess, supply and demand, the ratio of supply and demand. It looks like it's back to like the early or the 90s, in the sense of health, right? And so let's take it, because, you see these supply and demand go like this and they come back and they're in a good place. Let's prognosticate a little bit on this then. Okay. So, the industry got ourselves in a little trouble betting on future demand. Because then all these golf courses came out of the woodwork, right? And there was an exuberance for golf. You can make the argument not a lot of it was for golf, but more to sell homes, as far as the supply. So, here we are at the crossroads of where demand has been going like this, and supply has been still going like this. Carry that forward. What do you see 10, 15 years from now? Or what are the possibilities, do you think, barring a pandemic, barring something that you just cannot even predict? What's your feeling, I guess, about the coming years, the next decade, on that supply demand issue?
I think that the some of the key metrics, Jay, that if the golf industry, the recreational golf industry being a tent, we have our tent poles that hold it up, and those tent poles right now are pretty sturdy. In fact, you've had new tent poles appear under that tent to prop it up, one of which is just the incredible continued growth of off-course participation. Just in 2022 was the first year that the number of golfers participating in golf, and I'll be a little more specific about that, but participating in golf away from the course for the first time in 2022 exceeded on-course. Now, on-course continues to grow, 26.2 million on-course golfers, but there isn't a sport or activity on earth who wouldn't be absolutely delighted to have what we have going on with, let's just call it golf entertainment, like Topgolf. Then you've got simulator activity, and of course, traditional driving range. And we focus on those 3 because you're hitting a real ball with a real club with a full swing. And we don't talk about video games that much. We measure it. We don't talk about putt-putt golf, but we measure it. Because one of the things that the NGF has studied for a long time is, what does it take for someone to get hooked on golf? Mm-hmm. And you need shot euphoria. You have to taste that. Golf's drug. And you hit a real ball with a real club with a full swing, and you got a chance to get shot euphoria.
Do you think, I'm going to split the hair here with you. Do you think the shot euphoria is the same when it's hitting a screen versus when you see it go 180 yards with that, 6-iron? What is it the same? Do you actually get the shot euphoria in a simulator?
I think you do. I wouldn't argue with what you're saying, Jay. I think to see the flight of the golf ball there's nothing quite like seeing the beautiful arc of the flight of a ball. But
it's a close second. It's a close second.
Yeah, you can still get that feeling. So the point is, okay, so the 10 poles, I'll throw up a few of them. One would be what we call latent demand. So continued interest in playing golf among non-golfers, those who do not play on green grass. The prospect pool that golf has continues to be enormous. Over 20 million people, 20 million Americans who do not currently play green grass golf, who give the number one answer to the question, well, how likely would you be, how interested are you in playing golf on a golf course now? It's over 20 million non-golfers. So the field of prospects, the chance to engage those prospects to hit a real ball with a real club with a full swing, these are amazing things for golf to have. And the last one that I'll give, which is a little harder to measure, amazingly, and I wouldn't be able to know this based on your sweater, is that golf is cool.
Yeah, this is cool.
Golf is cool right now. And
yeah,
the way you guys saw me talk about it a little bit, and this is the most fun conversation right now, is how off-course golf and social media are positively impacting how golf is perceived and how cool it is. But then I get to give that rough underbelly, and this is where the real opportunity is for this audience, is that we don't have a problem with the top of the funnel and people being interested in playing. And we still have a situation where the brand of golf is amazing right now and golf is cool. But when you're a novice and you go to a golf course, the experience has to align with how cool golf's brand is. And that means us always striving to do a better job with being accommodating and welcoming, and golf's orthodoxies, which scare a lot of people away. And what we measure, and we measure this a lot, failed trials. 5 to 6 million people try golf every year on a golf course who did not play the year before. 5 to 6 million. Well, we don't gain by 1 million in a particular year. So what's wrong? Well, part of it is making sure that golf is more welcoming and more accommodating at the golf course level, and it feels cool.
Yeah. So, all right. So you made the connection, and Don, I'm going to bring you in a second on a supply question. But right now, so you brought up the issue of connecting the coolness to the traditional facility. There's still questions out there that I get about the pathway from this, the 5 irons, the screen golf places, the top golfs. When is it in their interest to encourage their customers? I won't call them golfers, their customers, to go to the green grass shops? Or is it in their best interest just to keep them coming back there, right? There's been this debate from the beginning. Is it going to cannibalize it? Is it going to lift everybody? What's it going to do? And, a lot of golf courses are doing what I have suggested, is bring that technology to your golf course. Give them a reason to come there. Top Tracer Range and what Don has done at Augusta Ranch. They're a model facility for that. Randall Anderson, who was, we mentioned earlier, in the simulators, like, there are great examples. That's like the best. That's the best, literally the best of both worlds here, right? Not everybody's going to do that. And these places are popping up everywhere. We must have 6 locations in Charleston of little simulator clubs, right? One of the questions that's lingering out there is, will they start there and stay there? Or will people really, I know you've measured some sentiment of interest in moving over. Have we measured any actual movement of the boots from all this golf entertainment to the green grass? And what do those numbers even look like?
So I'll start, for right or wrong, with what we can't do, just because it's cost prohibitive. Just being able to we could create longitudinal study and track small groups of people and see what they do, but it wouldn't really help in terms of the the conversion measurement. So what we look at, just to give one thing, is those who take up golf for the first time, and we look at those groups every year. 2/3 of those people play greengrass golf after having off-course experience. And that's part of taking away at least one piece of the intimidation factor.
Yep.
Okay, I can get a ball airborne in these other environments. I see golf as being attractive, so let's give that a shot. Relative to the first question, Jay, is I encourage businesses to be selfish. Okay, businesses have to operate in their own. They have to, and they will operate in their own financial self-interest.
Nothing wrong with that's the nature of business,
right? However, what we have found through studying, just for one thing, the golf entertainment customer, is that they feed off each other. What we found is that those who play off course, that it makes them want to play on course more. And those who play on course and they do the off course activity, they're like, let's go back to Topgolf. Let's go back to Top Tracer Range. Let's go back to simulator experience. So what we like to see is that this isn't a graduation. It's not someone doing off course and graduating to becoming a green grass golfer and not going back. It's the pie getting larger.
Good.
That's what we see. That's what our research tells us.
Yeah, I'm gonna pivot here and talk about that research that I just mentioned, this golfer per golf course kind of ratio, and I want to talk about supply. So Don, I'm going to ask you this question, because one of my concerns, I don't say concerns, one of the realities of what I'm seeing from the NGF as far as the courses in the pipeline to be opened is there are no Augusta ranches, in the pipeline. The daily fee, close to population center, affordable place to play. When I say affordable, it's not going to break the bank. It's a public place. It's not billing itself as high end. That's what kind of the public side of the golf course it's been the backbone for the last 30 years as far as development is concerned. There are none in the pipeline as I can see, and I would almost call them an endangered species, not because of failure of the business, but as our friend Dr. Bettis has said, the dirt is worth more than the grass, and that an Augusta ranch, if it has a proper zoning or whatever, is ripe for the picking by a developer, right? And so when we look at the future and what's going to replace courses like Don's, do we get concerned? Supply and demand may be an attractive proposition to the current supply. Wow, if the supply shrinks a little bit, demand keeps going up. That's kind of a healthy thing. But if the affordable places go away, what is that going to do to that demand, right? So any thoughts on what you see in the pipeline and concerns about the type of product? And you can comment on what you guys have, and I've read it, but comment on the kinds of courses you see in the pipeline right now.
Well, most of what we see being built are what I would call, for the most part, destination golf, the kind of place you would travel to play. That doesn't necessarily mean they're resorts, but they're that particularly special that someone would travel to play them. Now, we've always said accessible and affordable golf is one of the most significant keys to creating more golfers. So it's one of those situations now, and I'll put a metric on it since you've mentioned it a few times, Jay, is in 1988, the measure of average rounds per 18 holes in America was about 40,000 rounds per 18 holes. It got to a point where we were closer to 32,000 rounds per 18 holes. And that's, of course, that's a national average. That's going to leave a mark. That hurt a lot. So as you alluded to, golf went through a natural market correction. And that happened on both the supply and demand sides. But it started with the supply side reduction, where certainly you had times where the dirt was worth more than the grass. And you also had markets where the huge building boom created 7, 8, 10 competitors in a particular metro. And that's just like if I was here in northern Palm Beach County and we opened 15 new restaurants, but all 15 were Chinese restaurants. Like, right. I love Chinese food, and there's a dearth of good Chinese restaurants here in northern Palm Beach County. But probably after we opened 3 or 4 Chinese restaurants, the demand would be satisfied.
Right.
And we just had a situation where it was a lot of, during that building boom, high-end, high greens fee, expensive to maintain golf courses. And that's, that was the problem then. But just in terms of today, just to level set, supply and demand is a different place. Golf courses have had the chance to raise the rates by a significant margin. That's a wonderful thing for the first time in so long to have that pricing power.
Yeah. Don, let me ask you about this from a PGA of America perspective, in the sense of the supply. When the supply was going like this, we've gone through these different cycles for 40 years where it's supply and demand were like this, then supply was like, or demand was like this, then supply went down, and it's gone crazy. But you look at and when supply was going up, it meant more jobs for PGA professionals, as golf courses were opening up and so forth. Yeah. And when you look at the situation where, yes, the contraction has slowed of the number of golf courses in America, so that's a positive economic sign into many regards. But when you look at the future about course openings and supply, what are you seeing for thinking about the PGA professional and jobs and the market in 20, 30 years from now? If more courses, if that contraction continues, even though it's slowed, that contraction continues, it means fewer jobs in the golf market on the green grass side, right? So what do you see? What are you seeing?
Well, this AI thing, I mean, not only could there be less jobs because there's less golf courses, or it stays the same. They also had AI engines that now can fit you for clubs, or maybe even give you a lesson. And that's why I think, you're right. We wear our hats, as the vice president, but it's also Don Rea, the owner of a golf course. It's also just Don Rea, who's a dad who just loves golf. And I think this is perfectly positioning PGA golf professionals, because what's happening, and John last told us that, right, is the relationship side of this sport is never going to go away. And the private clubs get it. Private clubs typically have 3 to 5 PGA golf professionals at their facility because they know that the members want to play with the PGA Pro, and they work some long hours because they're playing 2-3 times a week when they're those clubs that get it. Right? I love what Invited is doing, where they're assigning like 100 members to one PGA golf professional because they're finding out that if they're engaged in the club, they don't leave, and it's harder to get a new member than to keep one. So I think public golf is going to do this. I think that's what the PGA is doing right now, and I think you're just going to see us do more and more, is that the relationship side, we as PGA golf professionals build relationships. That leads to loyalty, and that's sustainability at a facility. So, yeah, the clubs that are being built right now, they aren't like, the Augusta Ranches of the world. I get it. But operators and owners and management companies are finding out that, listen, we got to get the pro out of the shop at the public side. They already kind of do it on the private side. And talking to, we got to walk the first tee. We got to be on the practice tee. We got to be on the putting green.
I love it.
And that, what? I know one thing. PGA golf professional, you guys both said it, shot euphoria. The sooner it happens, the sooner that they're addicted to this drug of golf.
All the excuses go away for not playing once you.
So let me excel. Yeah, you're right. You're not going to not play after you hit that shot. And so, can a PGA golf professional, LPGA professional, get you to shot euphoria quicker? Absolutely. And I can't do it when I'm ringing you in behind the counter. I can only do it if I'm walking up and down the range.
Do you see PGA professionals getting employed at the 5 irons and these local simulator joints? And so is this an ideal place? Because I have a friend in the industry that we argue and debate a little bit about the golf entertainment sector, and is it part of the golf economy? And I keep giving evidence as to why it is. And if PGA professionals are working there, is there a clearer example that this is golf when you have PGA professionals there teaching and hospitality and all that? Do you see that as a sector for PGA members for legitimate employment, and all of that?
Absolutely. I mean, Golf Tech hires a whole bunch of PGA golf professionals. Those are lessons hitting into a screen. Top Golf hires a whole bunch of, there's a PGA professional on almost every Top Golf. If those little new simulator places that are going to open, or the Pop Strokes and all those little putting places, if they hire a PGA golf professional, I promise you they're going to be successful. If they don't, then all they've done is provided an experience. But if you get a PGA professional, gets you like, no, this experience can be a little bit better. Like someone just said on the comments of getting shot euphoria, it can happen into a screen also. Yeah, you feel it, right? And I think if they're smart, they're going to do this. I can't wait, because the only way you could ever get promoted as a PGA member was to eventually become the general manager and be a bean counter. And we're not bean counters. We are seed planters. And we can do that in a strip mall, at a simulator place, or I can do it at Augusta Ranch, or I can do it at a resort. And the kids all come over and we do a little snag, right? I can do it anywhere.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we got Greg for all, not all day today, so I'm going to switch topics again on you, Mr. Nathan. So you guys came out with an article, might have been last month, about dress codes in golf, right? And when I came back to NGCOA in 2015, the very first blog post I wrote was about dress codes, and how I took my kids at the time, they were maybe 5 and 8, to the local golf course. I had a great little deal to beat balls for kids, $10 all you want. We went there on an afternoon on a cold December day, and these are 5 and 8-year-old kids, right? And I thanked the pro for offering a great deal. And he said about my younger son, who was literally 5, can you make sure he's dressed more appropriately next time? And I thought, oh man, are we really still here, right? So you came out with some research that you interviewed golfers and non-golfers about dress codes in golf. And let me summarize here for everybody and distill it down if I'm correct here. That of the golfers, when you asked, are dress codes important, essentially, right? 35% said yes. When you ask pros and GMs, do you think that, dress codes are important? 55% said yes. So there's already a delta. There's already a gap here between what pros and GMs say, they think is important, and what the existing customer is saying. So we already have a pretty wide gap. Then you ask the non-golfer how important dress codes are. And I think it was something like 70% of the non-golfers said it's not important. Like, I don't care about 70%. It's like, no, it's not important. I'd be curious to see how many of those pros and GMs were at private clubs, and how many of those golfers consider themselves public golfers versus private golfers, because there's definitely a cultural thing that's a little different there. But, I guess, where is this yet going when you've got the demand, or the latent demand, or whatever you want to call it, saying, I don't care about a 2-inch piece of fabric around my neck. I'm willing to pay and play and have a good time with you. And the course is saying, no, you need that. Where are we today? Where do you think this is going, Greg?
There's all different flavors out there. And I think that there's not a universal rule that was going to work for everybody. Mm-hmm. And part of it is, I don't know, I'll just use I'll just call it the forbidden fruit factor. We are so enraptured appropriately to want to play at some really amazing exclusive places, be it, Pine Valley or Seminole or
Scottsdale National, maybe.
Wherever it is. And you're like, I'll wear whatever I have to wear, to be able to play, make sure I can play there again. Okay. But those places, they're not in a hard place in terms of creating demand. But if you are in the public golf business, for example, and this isn't totally about public golf, and you look at the trends of those who would be our prospects for the game, and you would say, I as an individual interested in playing golf, I want to be myself wherever I go. I need to be myself and true to myself and be authentic wherever it is that I'm going. And golf courses who would like to continually have more customers would do well to think that way and to understand that we have to come to the customer. And most industries, they think like that. We have to come to the customer. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's going to be different depending on the type of golf course business it is.
Yeah.
And when right now tee sheets are full, there's even less reason or less drive or motivation for someone to make a change right now. And that's the other, big thing. One of the other big things that we think about is while tee sheets are full, we should be thinking about what's going to happen when tee sheets aren't that full.
Yeah.
What are some of the changes we need to make golf more welcoming, accommodating, that golf courses go to the consumer? This is a good time for us to be having that debate and for the management of golf courses to be having that debate. What are we going to do to make ourselves more accessible?
I'll say to that point, Don, you got something? Go ahead. I'll close
well,
out.
Yeah. I just throw it out there. I think, at Augusta Ranch, you get little kids, they want to start playing golf and they eventually dress like golfers. These people who buy these bicycles, all of a sudden they're wearing the stuff like they're Tour de France, right? But if you had to ride a bike and have to wear that stuff, I'm not putting that junk on. There's no way. But if I start love biking, then I'm gonna wear that stuff. But it's interesting right now, Greg, is Top Tracer, right? Younger crowd. They're not golfers. They're at Augusta Ranch. I walk up and down and see the shirts and clothes that they're wearing. It's not my golfers. So what's interesting is the worlds are colliding, and my golf shop is not reflecting that. I'm like, I almost have to have two golf shops, one for the Top Tracer people, because they think the stuff I have in my shop is for the old people. And guess what? It is, because that's who plays Augusta Ranch. But I need a newer, hipper line of clothing next to buckets. And so that's another thing that we're just going to have to embrace it and stop fighting the fact. Even here at Scottsdale National, I never played here a day in my life, right? There's no over the top, even cell phone policy, which was awesome. But you're right. If you're still telling people they can't wear denim, whatever. I guess I'll buy your course in 5 years and make a lot of money on it, because you're not going to survive.
Just this past weekend, I played golf at my club, and one of my guests was there, and I think we finished up on 18. We're rolling the carts in, to the staging area. He had his hat on backwards, and the staff asked him to put his hat forward. It's like, and he's my guest. It's like, how do you feel in that moment? You feel embarrassed. You feel like, wait a second, I'm this person, and now I'm this person. It's like, really, is this really where we are in some of this? I certainly understand some of it. As a kid, I liked dressing up to play golf. I felt like I was dressing up to play golf. It was kind of a really cool thing. But I think, to put a period on this one, I think what we need to make sure happens out there for the golf industry is that we have the same kind of reputation as the restaurant and dining out industry. If someone asked an American, anybody on the street, hey, what do you have to wear to eat at a restaurant in America? What do you think they're going to say? They're going to say, well, it depends. Where are you going? But there's no perception as though you have to get dressed up. Golf still has this perception as though the private clubs that still require these strict dress codes, that is golf. That is a problem we have to fix. That coolness that you're talking about, Greg, is fixing that. But it's still, we still have a way to go, to one, make sure that the perception is that you don't have to do that everywhere. Maybe here are the places you can go and not have to do that. And, in bridging the gap there, we've got to do that, because you're right. I'm concerned about all the people watching these awesome things on TikTok and Instagram about how funny and cool and golf is. And then you go to your local place or whatever, and it's like, whoa, hang on a second.
And it is, when I used the word earlier, and I do think it's a very, very descriptive word, the orthodoxies of golf are often what stops somebody from staying with the game, because loyalty, being hooked on the game, it's about the perception of fun. As cliche as that sounds, it's almost a totally linear relationship between my relationship, not me personally, but a person's relationship with golf, how loyal they are, how hooked they are, and how much fun they think golf is for them. Well, guess what's not fun? Not fun is worrying about embarrassing yourself or your host. That's not fun at all.
Yeah.
And we have so many choices of recreation in life. You are going to choose forms of recreation that you find fun. So we got to watch out. We have to stop being our own worst enemy.
Yeah. I wonder, I see a Harvey Silverman comment here. I'm going to bring it up where he says, stop calling it a dress code. It sounds like the military or private school, maybe dress preferences or appearance preferences. Restaurants do this. Okay. You need a private club, you can set your rules. It's your private club, it's your members. The members set the rules. Fine. When you're in a public golf course, this is maybe something we should investigate a little bit. It's like when a public course, a place of public accommodation, a public golf course says, you must wear a collared shirt to play golf here. I'm wondering, just from a legal standpoint, if I show up without a collar, are you allowed to say you can't play golf here? I hate to split the hair and get deep into this, but because a restaurant may say appearance preferences. Well, what if the person comes to the restaurant is not dressing according to the appearance preference? What are you going to do as a restaurateur? You're going to kick them out? You're going to change their table so they're not seen by everybody? Whatever it is, right? And that's the funny thing about golf too. Once you're out there on the golf course, how many people are really seeing you anyway? But maybe we should dive into this to look at an actual public policy, or what is the law around this to say you're not allowed to golf here if you are, don't tuck your shirt in or whatever it might be. Private clubs, you can set your own rules. What about places of public accommodation? All right, I'm going to move on, gentlemen. We're gonna move on to another our final grab bag topics, and we don't have a lot of time, but they're the sexiest topics right now in golf. So just announced this week, the USGA and the R&A are rolling the golf ball back. I think by 2028 for the elite tours and by 2030 for the recreational player. Huge debate here right now. I know the PGA of America came out with a position statement. Don, if you can summarize what that is. And Greg, NGF's not usually in the business of putting out position statements and all this stuff, but I certainly would love your take on where we are and what's happening. So Don, we'll start with you.
We're happy they took bifurcation off the table. I mean, that was going to require me to have two sets of range balls, which have been ridiculous, right? I think for us, it's just we think the data is still conflicting out there. They've got their set of data. The tour's got their set of data. The OEM's got theirs. At the end of the day, who's the collaborating force of all of these aspects of the industry? It's the PGA golf professional. So all we're asking is, hey, glad you gave us some time to 2028 and 2030. But we're not sold that this isn't going to negatively affect recreational golf. And since we're the experts in recreational golf, we're going to defend that and we're going to find out what the data is. And I think we'll come to a really good solution before 2028 happens.
Greg, what's your take? I mean, you can have Greg Nathan's take, and you can caveat this by saying this is Greg Nathan, not the future CEO of the NGF here, because I know you serve every sector. So I know you're probably thinking, I got to be careful here, but this is Golf Business Live, my friend. We talk it all.
Yes, this would be the Greg Nathan take. And the Greg Nathan take right now would be, we heard for many years while we've noticed people hit the ball, skilled golfers hit the ball ungodly distances that we perhaps didn't know we were going to get to this place. We had heard for many years that it was these incredibly high swing speeds that could compress the modern tour golf ball enough to get that extra boost of distance out of the ball with a driver. Since the great majority of amateurs are nowhere near being able to compress that golf ball enough, and this is not from a scientific standpoint, I'm hopeful that the data that led to this decision can help enlighten many of us that the great majority of us who swing at 103 miles per hour, that the new standards for golf balls, it's not really going to cost us much yardage or much performance at all. Mm-hmm. That's just with being able to digest what I have thus far and the method that they're using, going to 100, going from 120 to 125 mile per hour club head speed. That's my gut, is that only those who can compress the golf ball at that level of the elite player, it will affect them disproportionately more than a recreational golfer. I'm hopeful that that's the result of this move.
And in that compression you're talking about, it when you hear it, and you don't hear it very often, unless you're next to a tour pro. or an amazing golfer you happen to get lucky to play golf with in a tournament of some kind, right? So there is a difference there. It's interesting because it feels like that there were three options. It was either bifurcation, right? And there's an argument that each of these is imperfect. That's the problem. Each is imperfect. It's trying to, bless you, it's trying to find the least imperfect. And I felt like there were three options on the table: either bifurcation, right, which would be costly to everybody for a lot of reasons, I think. And I think the recreational golfer might have picked up the tab on what that would cost the elite players. Two was rolling it back for everyone, and three is doing nothing. And I just kept hearing over and over again that doing nothing is not an option. And I know the guys at the USGA, the men and women there, pretty well. And we've been in this industry a long time. I'm looking for people. You can be a cynic here. I'm looking for the economic benefit of doing this to the USGA or the golf. And I don't see one. So if there's no economic benefit, which is usually why people get cynical. They're doing this because they're going to make money over here. It's like, I can't see the economic benefit of this to any of the stakeholders here, except maybe those top clubs in America who are afraid of being obsolete because they might not be able to host a major. We're talking 10 clubs in America or 20 clubs in America. They might suffer economically, well, actually, no, if we do this, they won't, but there's an economic driver there. If that's it, I can't, it'd be hard pressed for me to believe unless I was what do you call it? A conspiracy theorist here, that they're the ones behind all of it, whatever. I can't see it. And I know Mike Wine, I know these, like, they're looking at the 100-year mark, right? They're looking at what's going to happen in 100 years. So as much as we kind of all don't like what's happening, do we just swallow a pill and move on? Is it really going to hurt us that much? I wonder if there was this much debate and angst the last time over history when things change. I doubt it. I guess we have social media today. We have these platforms where it just all conflates maybe more than it really should, So we'll see what happens. I'm getting in my ears every single, argument you can imagine, just as you all are. But we can make our voices heard if we don't like it. This is still America. We can do our best to protest, march, whatever it is. But right now, it could be a little bit of a tempest in a teapot. The way it's shaping up. But that being said, we are the watchdogs of the golf economy in many ways. And if our alarm bells are going off, we would be activating. I don't hear golf course owners and operators around this country saying we must march up to Far Hills or Pinehurst and make this happen. If it was that consequential, I think a lot of our members would be doing that right now.
Hey, Jay, who do you think the mouthpiece of the recreational golfer is? It's us. It's the PGA of America.
Wait.
Our 30,000 members talk to all the recreational golfers. So everybody's saying it's the PGA stance on behalf of all the 30,000 members and everybody they coach. They don't want the ball to go shorter.
Okay,
they don't.
So the analogy that you use, the metaphor that you've used is the PGA is the doctor, right? The patient, like the doctor. You don't want to go into, you shouldn't go into a doctor's office. The doctor is not the one behind the counter checking you in or whatever. It's like the PGA pros knows the customer best. But what you're saying is, in that metaphor, who's representing the patient? The patient is the golfer, right?
Sure.
And so the patient really doesn't have a voice in this whole thing. The golfer. No, the patient is the golfer, the recreational golfer. The USGA, if you look at who their 2, 3 million, 4 million people that have handicaps are, they're the private club golfer for the most part, right? We look at public golf. You guys are the best. PGA of America is probably the best representative. Yes. And to try to ascertain what's happening to the patients, but all in all, who represents the public golfer? Who represents that? Who is no? Who is?
Yes. You're missing my connection.
You're the professional.
The patient is telling the doctor, and the doctor is telling the industry. And so to say that it's just our opinion, it's not true. We're listening to the patient who's saying, it hurts when I hit it shorter. Can I please hit it longer? And so we're just simply telling everybody what the patient thinks, which is they don't want to hit it shorter. And they're not worried about, hitting it over the green anymore. So that's what I mean. I think our pros are simply representing all the people they teach and coach and learn to love this game. And those people don't want the ball to go shorter. I'm sorry. And they don't want bifurcation. They don't.
So it sounds like we're
There you
taking our
go.
medicine because we're getting the rollback. You know, we don't like to take our medicine.
Hey,
we're taking it.
we ain't taking the rollback yet. We still got till 2028.
Well, 2030 for the recreational golfer, 2028 for the elite
True,
golfer, right?
true.
So
Correct.
lots of time here. As you can see, Greg, right? It's a debate still. It's, even though decisions seem to have been made, it's a healthy, good debate, and a lot of stakeholders, a lot of interest in this industry. And that's what we all love here. And we're going to close the show on this, that you probably are not going to find three more enthusiastic people about the business of golf for sure. And the business is tied to the golfer, right? And then that's who's, we're concerned about. We want them to keep coming in droves into our businesses. And so with that, Greg, thank you for joining us on Golf Business Live. We will have you back on the show for sure, maybe a year from now. Good, year-end closing comment to see how we did this past year and how it's going to look into the next year. Guys, happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas. And we will see our audience in the new year. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Don. Great being with you.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.